Previously on Destiny.
Sloane?
Here, Commander.
You're alive.
Staying alive was the mission. And I always complete the mission.
No wonder you called us, sister. Let's get you back home.
You don't understand. That distress call wasn't for me. It was for her.
What do all three species and location have in common? Always, there is more than meets the eye here. Since the birth of the Prime Universe, these ontological creatures have existed. And if you didn't notice, it can easily be missed. Welcome back, Guardians. My name is Samlab, and today we're asking the question, what is the Leviathan? It would be foolish to assume that Season 21, Season of the Deep, is our first encounter with both the Deep and the Leviathan. But for everything to make sense, I'll need to take you back in time. Eons and eons to the planet Fundament. And at this exact moment, the Krill sisters have listened to the whispers and worthings of a so-called dead worm familiar, origins unknown. Have a listen to this lore entry from the Book of Sorrow titled The Dive. It says, "The needle ship pierced the skin of the world and burrowed deep, through layers of foam and metal and cold elemental slush. Orash devoured the ship's maps of fundament, from the high angelic cloud decks, down and down through storms and oceans and plates of floating world, into the crush of the core. They met monsters of continental scope, vast anemones that raised glowing tentacles to bait them in. Zeroth flew the needle ship through them, and they bled black carbon jelly and frost. They came to a still place beneath a plate of metal.
"I'll use the sensors,"
whispered Orash.
"Listen."
In the wet gold dark of the helm, they listened to the ship, and the ship listened to the crushing motions of Fundament. They heard the collision of continents. They heard the patter and the crush of helium neon rain. They heard the struggles of monsters, and they heard the distant groan of the ocean rising, tugged by distant moons.
"The syzygy is real.
Sathona hissed.
It's already begun."
Behind them, Z-Raw thought of the birthing room, where ancient explorers had labored over surgeries and administrations, peeling back the chrysalis and the core of what which they had made from the deep, whose birth none of them would survive.
"There's something down there.
She whispered.
Something secret."
And the Leviathan loomed over them, its brow as huge as all continents of their childhood, its great array fins crackling with the lightning of its life, booming into the hull of the needle ship in a microwave voice.
"You must turn back. Save yourselves from the deep. Save the world from yourselves. You must turn back.
Here, this is it, the precise moment that we, the reader, meet the Leviathan for the first time in all Destiny history. And here the sisters are given a warning to turn back from the deep, which was an uncharted depth beneath the surface of Fundament, a hodgepodge of layers of multiple moons and planets being combined. Whose intention it was, I couldn't tell you, but evidence points towards the direction of the witness, so eager to win over the proto-hive, before the traveler could bless them with the power of the light. What fascinates me is that here, direct parallels can be drawn between Xivu, Orash, and Sathona, diving into the deep, just as we three Guardians are also diving into the deep for the first time. There have often been questions about where the worm gods, Leviathan and Ahamkara, originate from. Till this day, no lore master has been able to piece it together, and while my evidence isn't conclusive, I do have a small piece of lore I believe offers some insight into the origins of these fantastic cosmic beasts. Have a listen to this excerpt from the Book of Unveiling titled
The Gardener and the Winnower.
It says,
The day was longer than all of time, and the night was swifter than a glint of light on a falling sugar crystal. Insects buzzed between the flowers, and worms slithered between the roots, feeding on what was and what might be. The first gradient in existence, the first dynamo of life. Rain fell from no sky. Voices spoke without mouth or meaning. A tree of silver wings bloomed, yielded fruit, shed feathers, bloomed again. In the day between the morning and the evening, the gardener and the winnower played a game of possibilities.
interesting, right? My understanding is that in this paragraph we get a glimpse of an important characteristic of life existing within the Prime Universe. Now you may debate, which I'll allow, but know that there is no other history harkening back to the time before Destiny's true universe began, describing worms of life in general. So what do worm gods have to do with it? I'll tell you why. But before I do, allow me to connect the narrative threads for you a little more. Have a listen from the Book of Unveiling titled T.O. It says,
And still, we fought. We brought down the tree of silver wings, and left the stump to smoke amid the meadows. We left prints of our splayed feet and our straining backs in the clay. Our trampling feet made waves in the garden, which were the fluctuations around which the infant universe coalesced their first structures. The dilation field yawned beneath existence. Symmetries snapped like glass. Like creases, flaws in space-time, collected filaments of dark matter that inhaled and kindled the first galaxies of suns. And still, we grappled. Our rolling bodies pushed things out of the garden. Worms and scurrying life from the fertile soil. Wet things from the pools and the leaves. They came out into the madness of primordial space. They thrashed and became large. And I won. I won because the gardener always stops to offer peace, and when they do, I always strike.
This is it. The moment that everything changes. It has always been a mystery as to how the worm gods Ahamkara and Leviathan arrived or came to be within Destiny's universe. Many cryptarch describe the Ahamkara as just always being there, as if hidden in plain sight. That may be. However, I believe there is evidence here to draw some conclusion. What I'm saying is that these lore entries are true. It suggests that all three species were in the original garden and escaped into the cosmos, arriving in our system. So what about the Leviathan? That they lived on Fundament. Lore states that these majestic creatures lived in the seas above, the deep, on Fundament, telling the three sisters of Krill, letting them know that they are its treasure and hope. This is so uncanny and sounds familiar, doesn't it? Have a listen then to this final lore entry titled Sheahan's Scuba Shell. It reads, Arsa settled from a long journey within an undersea cavern, pocketed by air. Sheahan surveyed the mix of ancient rig foundations and natural stone. It seemed quiet enough, and Sloane needed rest. No hive barnacles grew there. Arsa had swam far from the largest concentrations of hive and taken and hid away in the cove tucked beneath Golden Age wreckage. Arsa filled the yawning space. She slipped through gaps and wrapped herself around plunging stalactites, her serpent worm segmentations gripping the stone, her face half submerged in slick methane liquid. Sheahan floated down from Arsa's back and turned to see Sloane slide and crumple to the cave floor as trails of steam seeped from the cracks in the ground beneath her. Sloane closed her eyes. It's cold here, but the steam, it's warm, she said weakly. The worm coiled a section of her body around Sloane, trapping in the heat around her. Sheahan watched every exchange between the two and drifted out of Sloane's earshot to the worm's gargantuan face. Arsa's attention snapped to the blades now protruding from the ghost's shell. The ghost got good and close. I don't know why you helped us. You seem nice. I hope you stay that way. If you're using her, if you turn coat, Sheahan sliced the air. I'll gut you. Arsa's massive eye dilated in on Sheahan's iris. The two stared unblinkingly until the worm's eyelid gently closed. She emitted a tone of contrite harmonic equilibrium.
I am not your enemy.
The ghost scanned the worm's face, and upon seeing its benign softness, retired to the coiled shelter Arsa had woven them. Sloane sat in meditation within, radiating a sense of peace that Sheahan hadn't felt from her in months. The ghost let herself pretend for a moment that even she felt almost safe. It was morning before Sloane woke. Arsa met Sloane's eyes through her visor. The tilt of her enormous head signaled a sort of greeting or eagerness. Sloane removed her helmet. Need something?
Ayat. Ayat. Arsa. Ayat. Ayat.
Sloane stumbled backwards into the cavern wall. Sheahan perked up into the air. Boss? Sloane inhaled sharply and dropped to a knee, as her ghost swooped in front of her and turned to the creature. Before she could speak, Sloane's hand was on her shell, patting her. "It's fine. It's Asa." "What's an Asa?" Shiohan questioned. "Some kind of proto-worm? Like Hive?" Shiohan deployed her blades. "No. The Hive were something before they were Hive, right? The worm gods were too. Asa is her name, I think." The ghost turned to Sloane, then to Asa. "What does she want?" "To not be alone," Sloane responded. "To be known." Shiohan retreated closer to Sloane and sheathed her blades. "Right then. We like big powerful allies. Let's hear what she has to say." A joyful shiver trundled from Asa's head down through her coiled form, rippling the methane pooled around her, sending tremors through the stone, causing crumbled dust to rain from above. Asa turned and focused on the pair. Her massive eyes spanned well beyond Sloane's entire body. The worm's sympathetic iris fixed and shimmered in hypnotic fluctuations, drawing Sloane into a dissociative state.
Ayat. Ayat. Asa. Ayat. Ayat.
Sloane tumbled through timeless alien remembrance. She was shown them, spoke of them, as if they are her own, origins and sorrows she now shared.
Witness offers powerful curse, a lust, masquerading as love.
Sloane exhaled hard, but Asa maintained her gaze and Sloane was swept back into the current.
A blade with ambition. I don't understand.
Flashes of fratricidal frenzy ensue. A slither mass carnage. Those once ever bonded now drive fang and lash of tail.
Proclaim deep magics, once thought too cruel to utter, all in pursuit of a sacred gifted logic.
Vortexes that drink empty fathoms of encrimsoned fundament sea churn above the fray. Asa cannot escape the writhe without unraveling from her captors with violence. She stains her fangs with the flesh of siblings turned rivals.
Blood betrays blood. To prove strength, survival is pain.
Asa flees, familial aftertaste fresh in her mouth. She would never know love again. This gift sours theirs, makes it vicious and hungry.
Rejected logic hunted as traitor, lost like you.
Asa dives into an ascendant dream. Cosmic language bathes her as she ventures, radio songs and magnetic roars that bellow across space. She slips between worlds and across great distances, breaches back into space to glide along the curvature of galaxies, chasing a distant point of light, a solar opposite to that which takes love. Sloane gasped for air. She came here for a chance to live. Asa crashes through Titan's thick skin and into its methane sea. The expansion of humanity across Sol unfolds as she mourns. Within a golden age, a bond is found. The collapse found them. A bond is lost. She wages a battle of grief, fights against nightmares of despair.
The disciple of fear struck Asa.
Shiohan peeked at the title.
Lost, retreating love wanes. The ebb and flow of hope. Bonded, we live.
This is incredible. If you haven't figured it out yet, allow me to put your mind at ease. Worm gods are originally Leviathan. This is confirmed within this lore entry. And it is a big deal, and probably brings up more questions that need answering. Like, who were the Leviathan? Why did the Traveler work with them? Why did the Witness try to ruin or use them? We're just getting started, Guardians, and slowly we inch closer to the truth and origins of the Witness. But one final question sits on my tongue. Who is the disciple of fear? So far we have faced 3 of them, Rolk, Nezarek, and Emperor Callus, each formidable in their own right. Rumor has it that there is a lawbook containing the musings of a said 4th disciple. I will speak to the Cryptarchs about lending me this book. There is a bigger story and plot at play here. It was a strategic decision for the Witness to choose the Leviathan. Not only do they possess their own set of abilities, they are able to travel through the Ascendant Plane. This explains how Arsa was able to make it to Titan's methane seas, years before the Traveler arrived, and years before the first collapse. Tensions have certainly risen with the Deputy Commander's return, and the return of Titan. How many more planets will we see returned? Mercury, Io, still remain. For now, Guardians, keep diving and spelunking into the depths of the deep, for our answers to the truth rest delicately beyond the veil. Know now that love is the key to victory, because the light lives in you. For now, that's all I have for you. Hopefully you have found this video entertaining, useful, and easy to understand. If you did, be sure to comment below and give this video a like. Consider subscribing, click the bell notification to find out when my next video goes live. And if you'd like to support the channel and help it keep going, then consider buying me a coffee, because every little does help. Remember that no matter what you're facing at this moment in time, you can do all things. Stay safe and Godspeed.